Welcome to Week 7 of our BIM Heroes CPD learning program on business development for AEC. We'll be reviewing articles provided by leaders in our community.
That's right. And this week, our deep dive is all about networking and partnerships, specifically within the AEC industry.
Yep, architecture, engineering, construction. We've got 7 articles here, all from community leaders, part of the BIM Heroes CPD program.
And it's such a crucial topic, isn't it? In an industry that really hinges on collaboration, how do you go beyond just, knowing people?
Exactly. How do you build those truly strategic alliances? That's what we're aiming to unpack today.
And Russ Monrose, in his introduction, really set the stage. He highlighted how the very structure of AEC, bringing together architects, engineers, constructors, makes strong networks and partnerships, almost non-negotiable.
Essential, really. Modern projects are just too complex to handle in isolation, right?
Totally. You can't succeed in silos anymore.
And Monrose also flagged the risks of not doing this well. It's not just missing opportunities. It's things like communication actually breaking down between teams.
Yeah, or not having access to the right expertise when you desperately need it. That can derail a project fast.
So it's about being proactive. Building that resilience, building capacity through connections.
Okay, so first up we have 2 pieces by Yara Oweiss. They're titled Networking Power, Art, and Tactics in the AEC Industry, Parts 1 and 2, covering online platforms to industry events.
Right. And what jumped out at me was her point about AEC being, collaborative, yes, but also sometimes a bit insular.
Yeah, there's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? Her work digs into the current networking trends and tries to offer some guidance, especially for students or people just entering the field.
So let's get into that. Oweiss doesn't see networking as just, handing out business cards.
No, not at all. She frames it as this blend of tactics, the practical stuff, and heart, the interpersonal side. It's about forming real bonds, trading value.
More than just job hunting. It's about having a bigger vision, making an impact.
Exactly. And she gives this interesting historical context, too, how it used to be all about personal connections face-to-face.
Right. The old boys network, perhaps.
Kind of. And then how professional associations came in. And now, of course, digitalization changing everything.
Which raises that question she touches on. Could we have a more sort of centralized online approach? Or do those traditional norms, good manners and established ways, still hold sway?
It's a real tension, the efficiency of online versus the depth of face-to-face.
So Oweiss looks at online platforms. LinkedIn obviously is huge.
Can't avoid it. But she points out it's not the only thing. There's this whole ecosystem, directories, places for socializing, marketplaces, knowledge platforms, even educational ones.
You need to think about which platform suits which goal, right? It's not one size fits all.
Precisely. And she gives actual strategies. Authenticity is key. She really hammers that home.
Yeah, being genuine.
And volunteering at events, that's a smart one. It gives you a natural reason to talk to people.
Oh, definitely. Less awkward than just walking up cold sometimes.
Yeah.
And she also mentions the after-hours stuff.
Right. Those informal gatherings, that's often where the real conversations, the relationship building can happen, more relaxed.
Makes sense. She also breaks down the types of industry events, local meetings, big annual conferences.
Each with its own vibe, its own opportunities.
And for getting the most out of them, she has some practical tips. Like doing your research beforehand.
Yes. Know who's going to be there. Have your elevator pitch ready, clear, concise.
And I liked her tactical advice about finding quieter spots to chat. Avoid the main scrum sometimes.
Yeah, allows for a more focused conversation, doesn't it? Less overwhelming.
Okay, so moving into her part 2. Social media more broadly.
Right. She notes how it's increasingly important in AEC, not just for broadcasting news, but for actively finding collaborators, staying updated.
Extending your network beyond the physical events.
But interestingly, she also observes that the art of networking, beyond those specific events or platforms, can feel a bit underdeveloped.
Which kind of underlines why keeping your online presence sharp is so vital. Your website, your profiles, that's your digital handshake.
Absolutely. A professional website is your home base. And then consistent branding across platforms helps people recognize you, builds that professional identity.
She also brings in culture and art, which I thought was a really interesting angle.
Yeah, that was quite unique. Her study suggested the AEC industry is actually pretty open to cultural stuff and that, art can even help build connections.
Which points to needing cultural sensitivity, especially when you're networking internationally.
Hugely important in today's global market. And finally, she touches on ethics.
Can't forget that. Privacy, data security, professional integrity.
Especially critical in these big collaborative projects like smart cities where loads of data is being shared. You have to trust the system and the people.
Okay, that leads us nicely into Russ Monrose's article, Building Strategic Partnerships for Business Growth. This shifts the focus a bit, right? From individual networking to how companies, specifically account managers, build deeper relationships.
Exactly. Moving beyond just selling stuff transactional to becoming real strategic partners with clients. Long-term value.
So Monrose outlines how you train account managers for that. What does that involve?
Well, first, deep knowledge. Understanding the client's industry, their specific business challenges he mentions using things like SWOT analysis.
Right, knowing their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Then developing consultative selling skills. He brings up models like CISPIN.
Situation, problem, implication, need, payoff.
That's the one. And challenger sales, where you actually teach the client something valuable, challenge their thinking.
Interesting. So it's not just asking questions, it's bringing insights.
Definitely. Plus, boosting their general business acumen, financial literacy, strategic thinking. You need to speak the client's language.
And strong communication, negotiation skills goes without saying, really.
Of course. And collaborating internally, too, pulling together the right expertise from your own company. And he stresses its ongoing reviews, mentorship.
Okay, so that's the account manager side. What about the business itself? How does the organization foster these partnerships?
Good question. Monrose covers that too. Starts with identifying the right partners, ones that complement your business.
Finding that strategic fit.
Then establishing a shared vision right up front. Open communication is vital. Clear structures, legal agreements, gotta have those sorted.
Laying the groundwork properly.
And it all comes down to building trust. Focusing on long-term value, not just quick wins. Being flexible, too, because things change.
And he mentions nurturing the personal relationships alongside the professional.
Yeah, that's crucial. People do business with people they like and trust. He also flags things like, IP, confidentiality, making sure the agreement terms are clear.
And he gives some pretty compelling reasons why businesses should do this. Hard numbers.
Oh, yeah. Stats on revenue growth, better customer retention, cost savings from sharing resources, accessing new markets.
Innovation too, right? Sharing knowledge sparks new ideas.
Absolutely. Joint marketing, even reducing business risk by diversifying. He wraps up saying this shift is super important, but adds a little caution. Don't put all your eggs in one partnership basket.
Wise advice.
Yes.
Okay, next up, ALShimaa Allam on cross-disciplinary collaboration in AEC projects.
Right. Her focus is squarely on why this collaboration is so necessary, particularly for really complex stuff like, say, offshore engineering. The challenges are just too diverse for one discipline.
So how does she define this cross-disciplinary collaboration?
Essentially, it's experts from different fields working together closely, pooling their knowledge to solve tricky problems and generate new ideas, leveraging that diversity of thought.
And what drives this need, according to Allam?
Well, the digital age is a huge factor. BIM especially has transformed how projects are conceived and designed. It almost forces closer interaction.
Right, you can't really do BIM effectively in silos. It demands integration from the start.
Exactly. She talks about collaboratively developing the project basis itself, needing synchronous work for good decision-making. And she uses the term BIM socio-technical system.
Okay, what's that?
It's the idea that the technology BIM isn't just software. It's part of a system that includes the people and processes, all designed to support collaboration.
So technology enabling the human interaction.
Precisely. She also mentions things like experimenting with collaborative workspaces and the need for training people to use these shared digital tools effectively. Quality interaction matters, even online.
And she links a BIM-centric approach to better outcomes.
Yeah, because it allows everyone to get involved earlier. Better coordination, fewer clashes down the road because issues are spotted sooner in the model.
Makes sense. Avoids costly rework.
A key point she makes is the need for a solid model coordination plan, sometimes called a BIM protocol.
Okay, like the rulebook for the project.
Sort of, yeah. It spells out who does what, responsibilities, how much detail is needed at each stage, level of detail, how information gets exchanged, who can access what. It's fundamental for making BIM work smoothly in a team.
And her main takeaways.
Huge potential for productivity gains if you get collaboration right. She also notes the pandemic kind of accelerated the need for this, pushing remote tools forward.
A catalyst, in a way.
But crucially, she says technology alone isn't enough. You need a change in attitude, a cultural shift towards genuine collaboration across the industry.
That's a big one. Mindset matters.
Okay.
On to Daniel Stevens' article, Expanding into New Markets Through Partnerships.
Yeah, Stephen's focus is on growth, increasing revenue, diversifying by moving into new geographical markets. And he argues partnerships are pretty much essential for doing this successfully.
Why are they so critical for market expansion?
Several reasons. You share resources, obviously, but crucially, you gain local knowledge and expertise instantly. That's invaluable.
Navigating local rules, culture.
Exactly. It builds credibility fast in a market where you might be unknown. Helps deal with logistics, regulations, even financial hurdles. And you can pool resources to bid on bigger projects you couldn't handle alone.
So how do you find the right partners? Stephen gives advice on that.
He does. Look for shared values. That's fundamental. Partners need a strong presence in the target market already. And ideally, they bring unique skills that complement yours.
And building the partnership itself.
Based on trust, again. Open communication, clear goals everyone agrees on, and definitely formal agreements to define everything.
He gives examples, right, to illustrate the benefits.
Yeah, good ones. AECom using partnerships in the Middle East to leverage local knowledge. Skanska mitigating risk through partnerships in North America. Bechtel accessing new opportunities globally through collaboration. Real world stuff.
But partnerships aren't always easy. Does he address the challenges?
Oh, yeah. Things like cultural differences, communication styles can cause friction. He stresses doing your homework due diligence before committing.
So really vetting potential partners.
Absolutely. And maintaining clear communication, agreeing on how risks are shared, and being really culturally sensitive, especially internationally. His bottom line, partnerships are basically a recipe for success in today's AEC world.
Okay, brings us full circle back to Russ Monrose for his summary article for the week.
Yep. Summary for Week 7, Business Development, CPD, Networking, and Partnerships. He ties it all together nicely.
He reiterates that deep knowledge of networking and partnerships is just essential in AEC.
Foundational, yeah. Because the whole sector runs on collaboration, trust, and those long-term relationships we've been talking about.
And he quickly recaps the benefits we've touched on.
Enhanced reputation, more opportunities, competitive edge, potential cost savings, better efficiency, knowledge sharing, all that good stuff.
And his advice is to be strategic about it all.
Definitely. Know who your key stakeholders are, actively build those relationships, focus on mutual value, what's in it for both sides, participate in the industry, and foster a company culture that genuinely values these connections.
He really drives home the point that this isn't just a nice to have.
No, it's a necessity. He says without these capabilities, firms risk becoming isolated, losing their competitive edge. It's that important.
And he finishes with a question directed at you, the listener.
Right. How can you actively improve your own organization's networking and partnership skills? What steps can you take for future growth?
Some really important considerations to reflect on as we wrap up this week's deep dive. Food for thought, definitely.
Indeed. Lots to think about there.
Well, that brings us to the conclusion of our review for this week.
We've certainly covered a comprehensive range of insights on networking and partnerships.
Absolutely. And we look forward to the next edition in this key learning program.